Alright, let's talk, because I need to get this off my chest before I explode. You know that feeling when you walk into a theater, hoping for something good, something that actually respects your time, and you walk out thinking, why the hell did I even spend money on this? Yeah, that's exactly how I felt after watching The Conjuring 4, Last Rites. And listen, I've been patient. I've been more than patient with Hollywood. We've seen it happen over and over again. Disney draining the life out of Star Wars. Indiana Jones stumbling back into theaters like a zombie franchise that refuses to die. Alien getting rehashed into oblivion. Over and over again, these greedy executives keep taking legendary sagas, beloved franchises, and turning them into empty, soulless cash grabs. But now, it's personal, because they've come for one of the last modern horror sagas I actually cared about. One of the few horror universes that actually felt different when it began. And I'm talking about The Conjuring. And holy hell, what Warner Brothers just gave us with Last Rites is not just a disappointment, it's an embarrassment. Let's rewind. Let's go back to the glory days. James Wan drops The Conjuring, and in an instant, horror changed. That film wasn't just another spooky house movie. No, it was a masterclass in atmosphere, the silence, the way the camera lingered, the way the sound design made you think something was always lurking just off screen. It wasn't just about the scare, it was about the suspense, that creeping dread that seeps into your bones. And what made it even better? The Warrens, Ed and Lorraine, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga weren't just horror leads, they were people, a couple you believed in. A couple with faith, love, flaws, humanity. You rooted for them because you cared about them, not just because the script said so. Then came The Conjuring 2, and Wan did it again. The Crooked Man, the Enfield poltergeist, Lorraine's visions. That movie cemented The Conjuring as a modern classic. People still talk about those scares almost a decade later. Those two films, iconic, they built the foundation of the so-called Conjuring universe. Without them, Annabelle and the Nun wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. Those movies survived because people loved the first two Conjurings. But then the suits smelled money. This is where it all started to fall apart. See, Hollywood executives don't understand horror. They don't care about horror. They don't care about atmosphere, tension, characters, storytelling. No, all they see is box office. All they see are dollar signs. So they turned The Conjuring into a franchise factory. Annabelle, Creation, The Nun, The Curse of La Llorona, Annabelle Comes Home. Movies that felt like they were cranked out of a horror assembly line. Were any of them necessary? No. Did fans ask for them? No. Did they make money anyway? Unfortunately, yes. Because people remembered how good The Conjuring 1 and 2 were, and they kept hoping maybe, just maybe, the next one would capture that magic again. But it never did. And by the time The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, came out, oh man, the cracks were showing. Predictable story, cheap scares, no originality. James Wan was gone, and you could feel it. And now, The Conjuring 4, Last Rites, the so-called final chapter, the supposed grand finale of this saga. Let me be crystal clear. This isn't just a bad horror film. This isn't just another weak entry in the franchise. No. Last Rites is the worst possible way to end a saga that started with so much potential. 2 hours of my life wasted on what might be the laziest, most uninspired script Warner Brothers has ever greenlit. And it's not just that it's bad, it's that it's insulting. Insulting to the fans, insulting to the legacy, insulting to the characters that carried this franchise for over a decade. This movie doesn't feel like horror. It doesn't feel like suspense. It doesn't even feel like The Conjuring anymore. It feels like some cheap, off-brand knockoff trying to cash in on the name. And that's the problem, because once upon a time, The Conjuring stood out. Once upon a time, it was different. But now it's just another lifeless franchise that got chewed up and spat out by Hollywood greed. So yeah, buckle up, because I'm about to rip this movie apart piece by piece. The writing, the scares, the acting, the directing, everything. Because honestly, the fans deserve better. The Warrens deserve better. And James Wan's legacy definitely deserved better than Last Rites. Before I tear Last Rites apart, let's pause for a second and remember something important. Let's remember why we even cared about this saga in the first place. Because believe me, it wasn't because of Annabelle. It wasn't because of The Nun. No, it was because of the first two Conjuring films. 2013, The Conjuring, I'll never forget the first time I saw it. From the opening shot with that damn Annabelle doll, you already knew this wasn't going to be your average horror flick. And the crazy thing, that doll wasn't even the star of the movie, she was just the appetizer, the little taste of dread before the real story unfolded. And then, the Perron family, a regular family moving into a farmhouse, nothing flashy, nothing over the top, just a normal family in a normal home. And that's what made it terrifying, because it felt real. It felt like this could happen to anyone. The way James Wan directed that film was pure genius. The camera movements, the long drawn-out takes, the sound design that made you hold your breath. It wasn't just boo, jump scares, it was dread, it was tension. It was the slow build-up that made every single moment feel like something horrible could happen at any second. And when the scares hit, they hit. Remember the clap scene? Oh my God. That scene is still one of the most effective scares in modern horror. It wasn't loud, it wasn't overproduced, it was simple. 2 hands, a clap, darkness, and boom, nightmare fuel. That's the thing about The Conjuring. It didn't need cheap tricks, it didn't need CGI monsters jumping out of closets. It scared you with atmosphere, with suggestion, with the unknown. And then there were Ed and Lorraine Warren. My God, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga carried that film on their backs. Their chemistry was undeniable. They weren't just ghost hunters. They were a couple, a team. You believed in their love. You believed in their faith. And that gave the story weight. Because when Lorraine was terrified, you were terrified. When Ed was willing to risk his life to protect a family he barely knew, you felt that courage, that humanity, that connection. And then came The Conjuring 2. And if the first one was great, the second one was proof that this saga had legs. Set in Enfield, England, a different family, a different haunting, but the same heart, the same attention to atmosphere, the same respect for slow burn terror. And oh man, the scares in this one, iconic. The Crooked Man, that tall, twisted figure moving across the room like something out of a nightmare. The demon nun, Valak, emerging from shadows painted across the walls. And of course, Lorraine's terrifying visions of Ed's death. James Wan knew how to make you feel unsafe. He knew how to keep you on edge. And even when he showed you the monster, it wasn't just about the visual, it was about how it made you feel. But again, what held it all together? The Warrens. Patrick and Vera were the heart of this movie too. Their relationship gave you something to root for. Their faith gave the story weight. Their chemistry gave the film balance. Think about it. How many horror movies can you name where you actually care about the leads? Not just, oh, I hope they don't die, number. I mean really care. Care about their marriage. Care about their safety. Care about their emotional well-being. That's what The Conjuring gave us. That's why it worked. And let's not forget, these movies weren't just financially successful. They were critically praised. Horror fans and general audiences alike agreed. This was special. The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 proved that horror didn't have to be trashy. It didn't have to be brainless. It could be smart. It could be emotional. It could be scary without being cheap. And that's why this hurts so much. Because those first 2 films weren't just good. They were great. They were modern classics. They were the kind of movies people would rewatch every Halloween. Movies that would be studied for how to build tension, how to direct horror, how to make audiences care. So when Warner Brothers announced The Conjuring 4, Last Rites, the expectation wasn't just give us another movie, number. The expectation was give us the grand finale. Give us the ending this saga deserves. Give us something that honors what James Wan built. But did we get that? Hell no! Instead, we got a soulless, recycled mess that feels like a bad parody of the very movies it's supposed to conclude. And honestly, that's the ultimate insult. Because the first 2 Conjurings proved how good horror could be. They proved you could have scares and heart, atmosphere and emotion, characters and chaos. And now, all of that has been flushed down the toilet. Alright, so now that we've remembered just how great those first two films were, let's talk about what happened next. Because as much as I wish The Conjuring had stayed this perfect little two-film story, Hollywood doesn't know when to stop. And that, my friends, is where the downfall begins. See, after the massive success of The Conjuring 1 and 2, the executives at Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema looked at the numbers and thought, hey, we've got ourselves a universe here. Let's milk it dry. And so the Conjuring universe was born. First up, Annabelle. Now look, I get it. The doll is creepy. She was a chilling little side note in the first Conjuring. But did she deserve her own movie? Absolutely not. The 2014 Annabelle film was rushed, sloppy, and painfully unoriginal. It was like they had this idea. What if Chucky? But boring. The characters were flat, the scares were predictable, and the atmosphere that James Wan crafted so carefully, gone. But did it make money? Yeah, of course it did. Because fans thought, hey, maybe this will expand the lore in a cool way. So what happened next? Annabelle. Creation in 2017. Okay, credit where it's due. This one was actually decent. Directed by David F. Sandberg, it at least tried to bring back atmosphere and had some solid scares. But still, did the world need two Annabelle movies? Number. Then came The Nun in 2018. And oh my god, talk about wasted potential. Valak was terrifying in The Conjuring 2. That reveal of the demon nun? Iconic. But when they gave her her own film, it was a snooze fest. All style, no substance. It was like watching a gothic wallpaper catalog come to life. Lots of candles, shadows, fog, but zero tension. And don't even get me started on The Curse of La Llorona. That one barely even counts as part of the universe, but they slapped the label on it anyway. It was forgettable, generic, and the definition of paint-by-numbers horror. By this point, the Conjuring universe wasn't a franchise. It was a conveyor belt, pumping out low-effort movies, hoping the name alone would drag fans into theaters. Then, in 2021, we got The Conjuring 3. The devil made me do it. And man, you could feel it. You could feel the difference without James Wan at the helm. Michael Chaves directed this one, and oh boy, we'll talk about him later. But right from the start, the cracks were obvious. The scares, cheap, lazy, predictable. The pacing, uneven, sluggish, messy. The story, a courtroom drama mixed with a possession case that had zero tension. Gone was the creeping dread of the first film. Gone was the iconic atmosphere of the second. Instead, we got a flat, uninspired horror film that felt more like a TV procedural with some demons sprinkled in. And look, I'll give credit where it's due. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga still tried. Their chemistry still carried the movie, even when the script gave them nothing to work with. But even their performances couldn't save it. And yet, The Conjuring 3 still made money. Of course it did. Because people like me, people like you, we still had hope. We still thought, okay, maybe it wasn't great, but the next one will be better. The final one will stick the landing. By this point, it was painfully clear. Warner Brothers didn't care about quality anymore. They didn't care about honoring what James Wan built. All they cared about was squeezing every last drop out of this franchise. Spin-off after spin-off. Mediocre sequel after mediocre sequel. And listen, I get it. Hollywood is a business. They want profit. But here's the thing. When you destroy the quality of your product, when you alienate your fan base, eventually people stop showing up. And the numbers prove it. Each new installment made less of an impact. Each spin-off had worse reviews. And yet instead of slowing down, they doubled down. It's like watching someone beat a dead horse and expecting it to run a marathon. So by the time The Conjuring 4, Last Rites was announced, fans like me were torn. On one hand, this was it, the finale, the chance to redeem the series, the chance to send the Warrens off with the dignity and respect they deserved. But on the other hand, we'd already seen the signs. We'd already seen what happened without James Wan steering the ship. We'd already seen Michael Chaves fumble the ball. Deep down, a lot of us knew this wasn't going to end well. And yet, I still held out hope. I still loved those first two movies. And I wanted, more than anything, for Last Rites to bring back that magic. But man, what we got instead, pure trash. because The Conjuring 3 was a warning shot. But The Conjuring 4, Last Rites, that was the kill shot. The final nail in the coffin of what was once the best modern horror saga. Alright, deep breath, because this is where things really fall apart. The Conjuring 4, Last Rites was marketed as the final chapter, the grand finale, the emotional goodbye to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the film that would wrap up a decade of storytelling. What did we get instead? A lazy, soulless Frankenstein's monster of a movie that recycles old ideas, abuses cliches, and completely misses the point of what made this saga special. The movie opens with this dramatic setup, except it feels like a parody of the first two films. You remember how The Conjuring opened with that eerie black screen, unsettling audio, Lorraine's voiceover? It was chilling. It set the mood instantly. Here, it's like a bad fan imitation. Cheap audio, muffled lines. That's not atmosphere. That's laziness. From the first minute, I knew we were in trouble. And then we meet the Smurl family. Or should I say, generic haunted family number 27. Within seconds, the father is already reacting to random noises, doors slamming, shadows in corners. No build-up, no tension. Just, hey look, spooky stuff. It's like they didn't even try. So the plot is supposedly based on the real-life Smurl haunting, which could have been fascinating, right? A family tormented by relentless supernatural activity. Great foundation, but instead of leaning into that story, the writers turned it into the most generic, uninspired, haunted house movie imaginable. Mirrors that trap demons, check possessed dolls, check random ghost apparitions with weapons, check characters making dumb decisions just to move the plot forward, double check. It's as if the writers sat in a room and said, what scary stuff do people recognize? Just throw it all in there. And the result is a messy, cliche-ridden script with no originality. And here's the kicker. 3 writers worked on this. 3. Imagine needing 3 brains to write this garbage. Now here's where it gets really insulting. Ed and Lorraine are supposed to be retired. Done. Out of the game. That's literally their arc. But of course, the script can't function without them. So how do they drag them back in? By having Father Gordon beg them to help the Smurls. And when they refuse, he just goes to the haunted house himself, fails miserably, and surprise, the Warrens have to come save the day. It's the laziest way imaginable to bring them back. No emotional hook, no reason for them to risk everything. Just, we need Ed and Lorraine in the plot, so here they are. And then, get this. The writers needed the Warrens' daughter to be at the haunted house for the finale, but they couldn't figure out how, so she just shows up out of nowhere. No explanation, no build-up, just boom, she's there. That's not writing, that's not storytelling, that's a 5-year-old scribbling in the margins of the script. Oh God, the scares, if you can even call them that. A hand grabbing someone's shoulder, a doll flying across the room and turning into an old woman, a Marilyn Manson-looking ghost with an axe who just walks around, threatens someone, and then does absolutely nothing. Terrifying, right? Wrong. I mean, come on, this is supposed to be the climax of the Conjuring saga, and this is the best they could come up with? At one point, Lorraine has a vision where she's pregnant, and the demon mirror fast-forwards her pregnancy like some kind of cursed fast food commercial. I swear, I laughed out loud in the theater. That's not horror, that's parody. And the pacing? Brutal. The movie drags for 2 hours, and every scene feels longer than the last. The scares are so predictable you can call them out 10 seconds before they happen. There's no tension, no atmosphere, no payoff, just empty noise. And then we get to the big twist. The evil force tormenting everyone is a haunted mirror. That's it, a haunted mirror. The same gimmick we've seen in 100 other bad horror movies. And how do they defeat it? With the power of love. I'm not kidding, with love. Ed and Lorraine holding hands, pouring their faith and affection into the mirror and magically banishing the ghost inside. This isn't horror. This isn't suspense. This is a Hallmark Channel script dressed up in spooky wallpaper. And honestly, I don't even blame Patrick Wilson or Vera Farmiga. They tried. They really did. But you can see it in their performances. They're tired. They're going through the motions. Their chemistry, once the emotional heartbeat of the saga, feels flat. forced, lifeless, and it's not their fault. When the script gives you nothing, when the scares are laughable, when the director can't build tension, you're doomed from the start. And then we've got the daughter and her boyfriend clearly shoved into the story so Warner Brothers can spin off a next-generation Conjuring saga without paying Patrick and Vera their worth. It's so painfully obvious it hurts. By the time the climax rolled around, I was done. Just done. Ed and Lorraine face off against the mirror. They hold hands. They channel the power of love. And boom, the demon is gone. The house is safe. Roll credits. No emotional payoff. No reflection on their legacy. No weight. Nothing. This was supposed to be the final chapter. The conclusion to one of the most beloved horror sagas of the 2010s. And it ended with a love beam destroying a mirror ghost. Are you kidding me? So here's the bottom line. The Conjuring 4. Last Rites is not just a bad movie. It's not just a disappointing sequel. It is a complete train wreck. A soulless, boring, predictable, cliché-ridden mess that spits in the face of everything James Wan built with the first two films. The scares, non-existent. The writing, embarrassing. The villain, a freaking mirror. The finale, the power of love. This was supposed to be the grand finale, the emotional send-off, the ending that would honor Ed and Lorraine Warren. Instead, it's a cheap cash grab with no heart, no soul, and no reason to exist. So my score, it's a 2 out of 10. And honestly, that's me being generous. The only reason it's not a 1 is because Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga at least tried, even though the script gave them absolutely nothing to work with. But make no mistake, this is not horror. This is not The Conjuring. This is a corpse of a franchise being paraded around by greedy executives who don't care about fans, don't care about legacy, and don't care about quality. And for that reason, Last Rites is one of the worst horror finales I've ever seen. But hey, that's just my take. What about you? Did you suffer through this movie? Did you hate it as much as I did? Or did you somehow find something redeemable in this mess? Drop your thoughts down below. I want to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this brutally honest review, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell so you don't miss the next rant. Trust me, we've got a lot more coming, and you won't want to miss it. Because if Hollywood keeps destroying our favorite franchises, you better believe I'll be here to call them out. So yeah, The Conjuring 4, Last Rites, final score, 2 out of 10. Absolute garbage. Now excuse me while I go rewatch The Conjuring 1 to remember what real horror looks like.